welcome back to Beauty Bee and to another Dupetorial. This time with the new Wet n Wild Color Icon palette in Lights Off. Now Wet n Wild came out with 4 of these new palettes, well, as I'm filming yesterday, and fingers crossed I should have this video up later today, so maybe it's yesterday for you as well. If not, sorry. Now I do really like the Color Icon formula. I have bought, I think, 4 of the quads over the years. I think I've bought 2 different 10-pan palettes, and I've bought a 32-pan palette that I will actually be using somewhat today. So when I saw that they were coming out with new options, I was pretty excited. However, as I was looking through the different colors, there were some colors that I just wasn't that interested in, and the one that I was most interested in, Lights Off, I was going through and it was like, I think I own most of this. So, to prove that to myself, today I'm going to be doing a look that I would like to do with that Lights Off palette with items that I already have. So if you've been here before, this is probably pretty familiar. Right around now there will be a picture of the palette that shows which color equivalents I'll be using. I think I'm going to start with this golden color along the top row. This is called Superstar from the Profusion Glam palette. I will link all the products that I use below, but of course the whole point of the video is that you don't need the exact same products to get the same look, so please use what you have. I'm just taking that on my finger. Isn't that pretty and reflective? I'm going to put that pretty much all over the lid. I've been so impressed with this palette. I can see why Emily Noel raves about these Profusion palettes all the time. My stomach's making noises. Apologies if you can hear that. Okay, so that's looking good. I mean, I did in my eye, and that's a swatch afterwards. So pretty. Okay. Now with that same shade, I'm going to just highlight my inner corner on a little detail brush. If you watch this channel regularly, you could probably figure out why this was the one that stood out to me. I love gray eyeshadow. I'm kind of steering clear of those colors a little bit today, just because I feel like I've used so much gray so many times on my channel. But it's pretty. So we're going to stick a little bit more to that upper row in this particular look. So now I'm going to use a dark matte green. Mine leans a little bit more teal, I think, than super green, but the overall effect is going to be pretty similar. I'm just going to pat that in the outer corner. I'm not worrying too much about keeping everything really neat right now because I've still got so many shades to go. And I find it much easier personally if I'm going to blend, say, these 2 colors together, to add more gold to blend rather than to add more green, because I find that the green can quickly overtake like 2/3 of my eye if I'm not super in control that day. Alright, so clean off that finger too. And now we're going to take care of the crease. So I'm going to do this in 2 layers. The first, I'm going to start with this somewhat smaller crease brush in comparison. Here's what I'll be using later. And I'm going to go into a pretty light matte gray. Okay, so I don't remember exactly what point I was at, but I believe that I had just talked about getting this light gray on a crease brush, and I'm going to start my crease with that color. just go over all the edges. Except for there, because I'm probably just going to clean that up with makeup remover. Okay, and now that it's looking very dark, kind of scary actually, I'm going to take this much bigger, fluffier crease brush and go into this sort of ash blonde shade. I'm going to go over the edges of the gray with that. I really have been liking the way using a more shimmery transition shade looks lately. I feel like it's a little less jarring than a truly sort of flat matte is. Maybe I don't need to use makeup remover. Maybe I can just work this out myself. No, makeup remover is definitely going to be needed over here. However, I think we're looking good on the lid. So now for the lower lash line, I'm going to go into more of that gray. I'm just running under my lower lash line. Okay. So I think that's looking pretty good overall. I do not have a particularly good match to the brow bone highlight shade in the Wet n Wild palette. However, I think that just by mixing a little bit of this peach, which is pretty shimmery, with some of this color, again from that Profusion palette. Sorry, we're having to do some makeup gymnastics to try not to blind you with that giant mirror. I'm just going to use a mixture of those two to highlight the brow bone. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I already had primer, I'd set my primer, and I had done my eyebrows when I sat down to film. And sunscreen and all that, but I'm less worried about that. Okay, so I'm going to add some mascara. This is the NARS Climax Extreme sample. I'm not wild about this. I think it looks so good when I first apply it, but then over the course of the day, I'll get transfer up here, which is not a problem I usually have. And though it's long wearing, it doesn't tend to come off as cleanly in the shower as I would like it to. Even when I think it's all gone, I will wake up the next morning and I can see bits of it under my eyes that have smudged overnight. I'm not about that. Okay, I think I'm going to do the rest of my face and then I'll do the makeup remover. I'm planning to keep things pretty neutral, really, overall. I'm going to go into a little bit of this pink blush. It's from Tarte. It's kind of a nude pink. As I believe I mentioned earlier, everything will be linked down in the description. And I mean, because it's in front of me, I'm going to use that rosy shade on the bottom from that Profusion palette. Just swipe my brush through that as well. I like that. It's got just a little bit of glow to it. Okay. Now, again, for yet more glow, I'm going to go into a mixture of these two shades from Wet n Wild again. I like how I say a little bit and then I grab this giant fan brush and just go to town. But that's just how it is around here sometimes. Okay. I feel like, oh, the edges on that are not as clean as I would like them to be. That is one downside occasionally to using eyeshadow as blush, is that it's not always meant to be as sheer or blend as absolutely effortlessly as blushes. Okay, so now for lips. Because I went so dark on the eyes, I want to keep the lips pretty nude, and for that I'm going to use a mixture of this Peach Perfect lipstick from Wet n Wild, I don't love the color of that by itself, but once I layer this Great Coral-ation, also from Wet n Wild, over, I think it looks really nice. And this is one of those rare lip combos that I feel actually looks better, 20 minutes into wearing it and then for a couple hours than it does applied right away. So I'm going to go clean up this eye with some makeup remover, and I'll be back to discuss final thoughts. Okay, I have returned. I did end up cleaning that eye up, as I said I would. I also ended up putting a little bit of concealer and a little bit of powder on my chin. Sometimes I feel like this peachy shade really brings out all the redness that I have in that area. So I think that's looking a little bit better now. And here's the final look. I'm really quite happy with this. So, what was the point of this video? Is it to convince you to never buy anything ever? No, I don't really care what you do or don't buy. I just think it's helpful sometimes to pump the brakes a little bit. Think about what you have in comparison to the thing that you are considering buying, and to really consider how adding an item may change or add value to your collection, or might not. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you like this style of video, I will link my Dupetorials playlist down in the cards. Thanks again for watching. I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!